My session is a part and parcel of the earlier session. I am giving you now couple of my session consists of two parts. One is some case studies wherein you can directly approach the court for the resolution of your dispute. Second part is how to plead your case before the tribunal or you can say first appellate authority or even adjudicating authority. First, I start with some of the case studies. This case study will amplify your understanding on the GST law. There are some disputes. You need not appear before the officers, then adjudication, first appeal, then tribunal, long duration process for the resolution of the dispute. It takes years, sometimes it takes decades. You can file directly, petition directly before the High Court under Article 226 of the Constitution of India for resolving your dispute. Yeah. I am not discussing the in detail nitty-gritty of each of the issue because each case study takes 1 hour on its own. It is a separate session, but I will give you the glimpse of the issue and what court has said in the judgment. First one, these are all the number of the case studies I am discussing now. First one, Goa University. The GST department contention is the fees paid by the student to the college. That is only exempted under the GST, but the fees paid by the college to the university, affiliation fees, that is not eligible for the exemption. Therefore, each university has to pay GST to the government. So, our Krishna University slapped with the show cause notice, Nagarjuna University slapped with show cause notice. Interestingly, I saw an invitation from the GST department. 1st July GST celebrations. Chief guest is the Vice Chancellor of Andhra Nagarjuna University. But we handled a case where the GST department labeled the Nagarjuna University as a evader of the GST. They issued a notice under section 74 saying that the Nagarjuna University has to pay GST on affiliation fees collected from all the colleges. So court said affiliation is also a part of the education. University has to regulate the way the college is conducting the education, preparation of the curriculum, conducting the examination, evaluation. So all these are part of the education. Therefore, and the regulation affiliation fees is also a statutory obligation on the part of the college to be payable to the university. So what is compulsory cannot be labeled as a service consideration. So this, why I am referring this issue is here. It is a question of jurisdiction. whether the GST department is having the jurisdiction on the university to enforce the GST law, applicability of the GST law to the university. So like this, I have filed a couple of petitions before the court, whether medical council is amenable to the GST at all, whether the fees collected by the medical council from the medical college as a part of affiliation fee, or the medical collection of the certificate of practice fees from the medical practitioner by the medical council amenable to the GST. Is it not a statutory function? Is it not a regulatory function? So where is the element of quid pro quo? So the applicability of GST Act itself to the government instrumentality is in question. Therefore, we can file the petition directly before the High Court. This is a recent decision. Whenever your business is closed, let us say if there is some closing balance of ITC is available in the electronic credit ledger, can you apply for the refund? GST is ideally should be value added tax. It is a tax on value addition. So if some credit is remained as unutilized and the business is closed, you can apply for the refund. So this judgment, High Court said the GST department has to sanction the refund. Many taxpayers, they are not applying for this refund under the understanding that this refund is not eligible. But now one High Court said this refund is eligible.
Government not file another application to hire this case.
This is the latest judgment, sir, but certainly they will file the appeal before the Supreme Court. This is a single member decision. They can file appeal in the very same High Court. Thereafter, Supreme Court. Stipulation
issue is the 2 years stipulation.
2 years stipulation will apply, sir.
We can use this case and we can file appeal to claim the refund.
Yes, this is a judgment of a High Court on a central law. It will apply across the country. Officer is not having a jurisdiction to examine the correctness of this decision. He is just an authority under the CBIC. Court decisions are binding on the quasi-judicial authority. Whether this decision is right or wrong, he has to implement this decision, unless it is stayed by the higher forum. So this is a common issue. Your supplier has paid the tax to the exchequer. Therefore, as a buyer, input is disallowed to you. So section 16(2)(c) is the issue. So Allahabad High Court recently said the GST department is not correct in enforcing these provisions against the recipient of the goods or services. Whether or not supplier has paid the tax to the government, recipient is eligible for the credit. This case is a very interesting case. I practiced as a chartered accountant for 12 years. I was always under the understanding, misconception that whatever the law says, that is correct. Whatever the notification says, that is correct. Whatever the circular says, that is correct. But there is something called constitutionality of the provision. So GST Act Schedule 3 says, Schedule 3 contains some activities, neither supply of goods nor supply of the services. So one of the entry is sale of land and sale of the building subject to paragraph 5B of the Schedule 2. So what is not liable for tax is only land and building. So here is the case. The example is APIAC has allotted the plot of land, let us say 10 acres of land to one A Limited for construction of a ethanol factory. They constructed the factory. That allotment of land is for the 60 years on lease basis for 60 years. The entrepreneur constructed the factory. He ran the factory for 15 years. After 15 years, he want to transfer that leasehold right to the another entrepreneur. So there is a land which is taken on lease for 60 years. On that land, he has constructed the buildings. Now he is transferring the whole piece of land and building as is where is basis for lump sum consideration. So GST department contention is you are not owner of the plot. If you are not a owner of the plot, you are not a owner of the building also, which is situated on the land. Therefore, you are not a owner. It is not a case of sale of land. It is not a case of sale of building. You are not covered under the Schedule 3. If you are not covered under Schedule 3, it is a supply of service. Therefore, you have to pay tax to the government. So, case the taxpayer directly filed the petition before the High Court. So, High Court read the Transfer of Property Act. GST Act is not an authority to say what is immovable property, what is not an immovable property, what is a sale, what is not a sale. Transfer of Immovable Property Act is the authority. So they said when the building is constructed on the land and he is selling the whole parcel of the land plus buildings as is where is the basis, it is a benefit arising out of the land. It is covered well within the meaning of the immovable property as per the Transfer of the Immovable Property Act. Therefore, it is excluded from the definition of the supply under the GST Act. So it is a question of the jurisdiction for the GST department to charge GST on this transaction. So in days to come, the taxation of the real estate properties, taxation of the real estate transactions, what is immovable, what is not immovable, is the potential area of litigation for the industry. Presently also, GST department is focusing on the real estate transactions. So the court came to the conclusion based on the Transfer of Property Act, not based on the GST enactment. This decision is from the AP High Court. Very important decision. I also filed the petition on this issue. In my case, show cause notice was issued after 1 day of due date. Due date for issuance of the show cause notice, department delayed by 1 day. Due date for filing the annual return, financial year 2021. 28 February 2022 is the last date for filing the annual return. So for financial year 2021, officer has to issue the order by 28 February 2025. Last date for passing the order is 28 February 2025. So he has to issue a show cause notice at least 3 months before passing the order. So 3 months. November 30th. So that is what exactly officer understood. February to January, January to December, December to November. Therefore, 30th November is the last date to issue the show cause notice. So accordingly, they issued a show cause notice on 29th November. So we said 3 months will end by 28. Month means exactly the same date. Because of this February month,
27
because of this February date, officer thought they have a time up to 30th November, but 28 is that is what Supreme Court interpreted in many decisions. Himachal Pradesh and others, when a period available for a certain action is defined in terms of a month, the corresponding date of the corresponding month would be the cutoff date. So 28 February, from 28 February 2022, just before 3 months. 28 November is the last date. So,
Leap year, then it will be more good.
so if a notice is barred by
1 day.
1 day, that is sufficient to say officer, it is beyond his capacity to issue that notice. It is a void notice. It is a question. Supreme Court many times said, when the taxpayer is questioning the limitation, it is a limitation, is a facet of the, it is a part of the jurisdiction. Therefore, that notice need not be replied. So this is the AP High Court decision. After this AP High Court decision, many High Courts followed this decision.
The department issuing ASM only 7 days times. ASM, but actually there is 30 days is required to.
There is a Karnataka High Court decision. 7 days is very short time. So it is not giving a sufficient time for replying. It is just a formality. So you can ask for the extension. 30 days.
30 days.
There is one AP High Court decision. I argued it is reported also. Officer has given 30 days to file the reply for ASMT 10. He has clearly mentioned in the ASMT 10. Assessee, somehow he did not notice that ASMT 10 the portal. Subsequently, DRC 1A came, show cause notice came, DRC 07 order also came. Time limit to file the appeal also got over. After that, client has come to me. So I pursued the documents. Officer has did one small mistake. Though he has given 30 days time to file the reply, he didn't wait till 30th day.
Okay.
So on 27th day or 28th day, he issued the DRC 1A. So I pointed out that he has given time up to 30 days, but he has chosen to pass the subsequent proceedings without waiting for the reply. Therefore, subsequent proceedings non-est. It is a violation of the principles of natural justice. High Court agreed to my contention and set aside all the proceedings and directed the officer to issue the DRC 1A afresh.
Starting for 01 years, starting ASMT times first or 1 years 01 first.
ASMT 10, but order said DRC 1A. Client want that order, what is appealable, which he has not filed the appeal, that should be set aside. So,
While before that, even though 7 days is given, we have filed the reply, it will be next to contract, it is become.
no. If you file a reply, that means you have taken the opportunity to reply. So then we cannot hesitate on that point. You can ask for extra time. I am submitting my initial reply, but I want extra time to reply these paras. So this case is also a very interesting case. This case, I argued this case. The GST officer in the state of Andhra Pradesh, he denied the registration certificate on the ground that authorized signatory is from the other state, not from the state of Andhra Pradesh. Therefore, he has written a clear finding that we can't keep an eye on you, that you are evading the tax or some fake transactions in the GST. Therefore, we are denying your application for registration. Court said there may be doubts on the genuineness of the assessee, but as per the Article 19(1)(z) of the Constitution of India, it is everybody's right to do the business or practice at any place in the country. So court said registration certificate has to be granted. For this type of cases, we need not wait for filing the reply, order, first appeal. If you file a first appeal, he may give the order. He may call for you for hearing after 2 years. So for these type of cases, you can straight away file the petition before High Court. Tara said refund application has to be filed within 2 years. But there is one decision presently that time limit is a discretionary time limit. Therefore, application filed after 2 years is also valid. Actually, the law of limitation is always directory. This is a fundamental principle in the Law of Limitation Act. This is AP High Court decision. So morning session you would have read the time limit to file the first appeal is 3 months from the date of the communication of the order. So the first appellate authority is having the power to condone the delay not beyond 30 days. So 3 months plus 1 month. One assessee has filed the appeal after 4 months. He did not file the appeal within 3 months. He did not file the appeal within a condonable period of another 1 month. He filed the appeal after 4 months. So the first appellate authority dismissed the appeal on the ground of limitation, saying that I am a creature of the statute. I can't condone the delay beyond 30 days. The reason for filing the appeal belatedly may be genuine, but he is incapacitated to condone the delay. So the taxpayer challenged the order in appeal before High Court of Andhra Pradesh. So High Court of Andhra Pradesh said when the law prescribed outer time limit for condonation of the delay, that is final. We can't direct the officer to go beyond what is there in the law. Law of Limitation Act won't apply for the GST cases for the reason that outer time limit is already fixed in the GST Act itself. Therefore, we cannot condone the delay. Actually, one of my petition is also a part of this batch. But once we understood the mood of the judge, so we have to play some tricks to detach the matter from the batch. So what is the solution for this case? The High Court dismissed the petition and upheld the order and appeal. So what is the solution for this case? So court relied on the very famous cases, Singh Enterprises under excise, Congo decision under customs, Glasgow Smith under VAT. So various Supreme Court decisions they relied, and they said High Court said we can't condone the delay. So what is the solution? What is the fate of the taxpayer? So he has to pay interest along with the penalties. So this is the solution. What we do whenever the taxpayer files the appeal after condonable period, when the commissioner appeals dismisses the appeal on the ground of limitation, what we do, we challenge the adjudication order. We challenge the order in original itself before the High Court. We identify some procedural defects or procedural errors in the process of the adjudication of the case. We file the petition. So we will ask the High Court to adjudicate the correctness of the order in original. So there are Supreme Court decisions saying that when the appeal is dismissed on the ground of limitation, doctrine of merger won't apply. Adjudication order in original won't merge with order in appeal. Therefore, order in original can be challenged independently before the court. So this is only the solution. Recently, this case is also reported. Agarwal Iron and Steel Industries, where I argued, court accepted the proposition, though appeal is dismissed on the ground of limitation. High Court admitted the petition, wherein I challenged the order in original. This is also ongoing dispute for the financial year 17, 18, 18, 19, 19, 20. The department issued a notification under section 168A extending the time limit to adjudicate the show cause notices, for issuance of the show cause notices, for passing the orders. 50% of the orders were passed in this interregnum period, in this extra window. So many taxpayers challenged the notification itself before the court, saying that 168A can be, notification under section 168A can be issued for the extraordinary circumstances like COVID. So in the year 2023, in the year 2024, there are no such circumstances for issuance of the notification in favor of the department. So Madras High Court and Guwahati High Court convinced with these arguments. So both the High Courts has given relief to the taxpayers. This is Supreme Court decision. For the first 3-4 years, many assessees, while filing the returns, there were a lot of errors. For one petition, I am arguing before AP High Court, the accountant disclosed the input credit of other company in this GST return.
Our accountant.
Both are group companies. The accountant is common for both the companies. That company credit he has disclosed it here. To rectify that mistake, that output liability also is disclosed in this GSTN. So department is concerned only about input credit. You have taken some input credit which is not reflecting in 2A. Therefore, we will dissolve the credit. So Supreme Court said all the bona fide errors while filing the GST returns, though time limit for rectification is over, department should enable the GSTN portal for rectification of the returns. So this CBIC is coming up with the circular for allowing the taxpayers to rectify their mistakes. Supreme Court said the right to rectify the mistake is a constitutional right which flows from the right to do the business under Article 19(1)(g) of the Constitution. This case is also on the jurisdiction assessee allocated to the state GST field formations, but the anti-evasion department of the central tax investigated the case and issued the show cause notice. Or assessee allocated to the central tax formations for administration of the GST, the RO office, regional enforcement of the state GST department investigated the case and issued the show cause notice. So Madras High Court said that is not permissible. If an assessee is allocated to the central tax field formations, it is only this central tax field formations to investigate, issue the show cause notice, adjudicate the cases. So there is a lot of backup for this dispute. The judgment verified the GST council minutes. They prepared a draft notification for cross empowerment. If an assessee is allocated to the central tax field formations, the state tax officer is also empowered to investigate the case, provided GST Council issues a notification empowering the state GST officers for the investigation of the assessee. But that proposal was held up in the GST Council minutes stage itself because of the divergent opinion among the states. Couldn't take it forward to issue the notification. So in the absence of the notification by the government of India, by all the state governments, court said if an assessee is allocated to the state GST field formations, state officer is alone is competent to investigate, issue the show cause notice. All, sir, all. Whatever the action,
If the company has two registration, two states.
it,
So,
it goes by registration wise.
So registration, that jurisdiction, that of balance sheet, that P&L account only, that.
Yes, yes.
But they are asking both the balance sheets, both information, so both states asking by the another state.
If you give that information, they will issue a show cause notice, including all India turnover. Therefore, on record, we should resist saying that balance turnover pertaining to all other states. Therefore, we understand that we are not supposed to disclose. There are many cases, officer himself took it from tally and issued the notice for all turnovers, all state turnovers.
And they link with the 26 years, 26 years information is this. So your turnover is this, there is mismatch in this turnover. So the notice was issued. So we have to prove that the 26 years turnover with the books, we need to submit the other branch information. So
We have to give reconciliation statement, sir. I remember a case where state GST officer one day he called me into his office. Sir, why I should come all the way to your office? You can tell me your query. Sir, your client almost 1,000 crore GST evaded. Sir, that is impossible, sir. No, sir, you please come, I will explain. Now he is telling 1,000 crore. I went there. So he is having all the consolidated balance sheet and profit and loss account. That client is having a subsidiary in the US. So they prepared the consolidated profit and loss account and balance sheet. So the officer is comparing the turnover reported in GSTAT 3B and turnover reported in the consolidated profit and loss account. So officers are applying the artificial intelligence tools, not the human intelligence tools. They should apply the human intelligence also while enforcing the GST law. This is also one good case in almost all the high courts. This issue is pending. 96 of Rule 10. The exporter is not allowed to export the goods with payment of IGST in case if he availed some exemptions at the time of import of the raw material. So Kerala High Court said that rule itself is a arbitrary, confiscatory, not enforceable. So this restricting altogether a exporter from availing the benefit of export with payment of IGST never contemplated in the act. So this rule is going beyond the statutory power. So they struck down this rule. So for this type of cases, if you go for adjudication or first appeal or appeal to tribunal, there is no use because all these authorities are created under the law. They can't say 96 of Rule 10 is void or confiscatory. Their job is to implement that 96 rule of Rule 10. All demands will be confirmed from the first stage to last stage. Principle of mutuality. So Kerala High Court said this traditional concept attained finality based on the constitutional provisions. So GST law cannot deem a club and a member as a separate entities. So this issue will apply for many cases. You take example of club and member, cooperative society and member, resident welfare association and member, partners to the joint venture. So when there is no relationship as a buyer and seller between a club and a member or association and member, the transaction is not liable for the tax. So this is a concept recognized by the Constitution. If at all they want to tax this transaction, amendment required in the Constitution, not in the GST Act. So they said whatever the deeming fictions created in the GST Act is ultra virus to the Constitution. Transfer of developmental rights. Bombay High Court interpreted the notification and they said reverse charge is applicable only in the case of TDR given by the municipal authorities, not the transfer of TDR by the landowner to the builder. These are all the jurisdictional questions. You can stop the officer at the investigation stage itself by filing the petition in the court. Once the moratorium is imposed by the NCLT, once the moratorium is imposed by the NCLT for insolvency of the taxpayer, any proceedings issued by the tax department is void. Maximum what they can do, they should participate in the waterfall mechanism. Normally in IBC proceedings, the amounts realized by the liquidator won't be sufficient even to pay the secured creditors. Therefore, all the statutory dues, GST, VAT, customs will be extinguished. So once the moratorium is imposed, officer cannot adjudicate the case. Therefore, it is a question of the jurisdiction. So many cases now before the courts saying that on 1st April 2025, the NCLT ordered the insolving the company. Therefore, the dues before 1st April 2025 will be waived. Tax department has to participate in the liquidation process. They are not aware of all this insolvency and bankruptcy code. They will say we are Mughal emperors, we are entitled to collect the tax. So court said once the NCLT took over the proceedings, the proceedings by the tax department is void. Safari retreats, they said mall can be a plant and machinery. They amended the law retrospectively. The amendment is yet to took place, but there will be a challenge before the court. How can a law will be amended retrospectively for 7 years, 8 years? For 8 years is too big period. That itself is a arbitrary. Therefore, there is no doubt on amending power of the taxing law. They can amend the tax law. They can amend retrospectively also, but not for the 8 years. The rights of the taxpayer will be violated.
Okay. Partial building input after this
So if you see this judgment, para number 31 and 32, they said very clearly, irrespective of all this, whether mall can be plant or otherwise, once you are giving a building on lease to a tenant, it is for the others account, not on his own account. The restriction will apply only when construction of a building is for his own account. When you are constructing a building for giving a lease or license to other person, it is not on his own account. Therefore, restriction won't apply. Accordingly, credit can be taken. So that is one exception. If you are giving the property on rent or license, lease, the ITC on goods and services used for construction of that building, you are eligible to avail based on the paragraph 31, 32 of the GST, this judgment. Suppose if we are constructing a plant, factory, office building for a chartered accountant, because of this retrospective amendment, you are not eligible for the credit. So this validity of retrospective amendment has to be tested before the court.
Suppose PNP marks some, they constructed a lease and given to the lease. So they are still eligible to claim ITC.
Yes, yes. Paragraph 31 and 32 of this judgment will answer that question. Bangalore Metro Corporation compulsory acquired the land from a person. So GST department claim is you have not sold your property voluntarily. Therefore, it is not a sale of the immovable property. Therefore, it is not a sale of land. You are agreeing to the obligation imposed by the corporation. Therefore, it is a service. Accordingly, whatever the compensation paid by the corporation for acquiring a land is liable for the GST. This is called tax terrorism.
For road extension, they will acquire some lands, and our land only acquired. The compensation is given by the municipality. So this is like GST.
That is what this whole case, the Karnataka GST department, they said, since you are not selling your property on your own, it is a compensation paid by the municipal authorities. Since it is a compensation, you are agreeing to refrain from challenging the actions of the municipal authorities. You are agreeing to tolerate the act situation created by the Karnataka municipal authorities. Therefore, you have to pay GST to the government. Court said this is a transaction in immovable property. Therefore, not liable for the GST. Selling of a building as is where is basis. I constructed a building partly as is where is basis. I am selling it to somebody. Here, I am not constructing any building after entering an agreement to sell. Whatever I did is for myself. After customer approached me, I have not constructed any portion of the building. Therefore, it is a sale of immovable property, not liable for the GST. This is having a lot of ramifications in the GST Act also.
After CC or OC or LARP in the
No, this is a commercial building. So one person constructed the mall to certain stage. He is unable to finish. He sold that mall as is where is basis to a customer, and he received the consideration. GST department said, since you have not obtained the OC,
under construction.
it is a sale of building under construction. It is deemed to be a supply. You have to pay GST on that. Court said the question of service to someone else will come into the picture only when first they have to enter an agreement to sell. Thereafter, they have to builder has to construct. Then only supply of service is involved. Then only tax liability will come. In this case, building sold as is where is basis. No construction activity carried out after entering into the sale deed or agreement to sell. Therefore, this is a purely sale of immovable property, not liable for the GST. As I told, taxation of the immovable properties real estate transactions fully potential for the litigation. We have seen in service tax regime. Throughout the service tax regime, the service tax department unable to collect the service tax from the sale of the apartments. So from the year 2004 to 2010, we said it is a self-service. Court said yes, it is a self-service. He is selling the fully completed flat to the customer. It is a sale of immediate property, not liable for service tax. In the year 2010, they amended the law, saying that if any advance is received during the construction, it is deemed to be a service. Therefore, has to pay the service tax. In the year 2017, court said it is a transaction consisting of three elements: supply of goods, supply of service, supply of land. So therefore, it is not a pure service transaction, not liable for the service tax. So whole service tax regime, they failed to collect the tax from the builders. So in the GST regime also, same litigation will repeat.
In such case, case of land development agreement, the owner, there is no intention to save future. Through joint development agreement, he gets some flats, 3 or 4 flats. So there is no intention to save. So initially, he thinks that the entire 4 flats or 3 flats, whatever he got, will be kept for his own. So after some 2-3 years, he had an idea, some customers coming, so to purchase that property in that meanwhile, there is no OC or there is no completion. So then he is required to pay GST because you have said that as it is as a position.
Now, if you say building is completed and you are selling after that,
there is no issue.
No GST.
Yeah.
Completion means it need not always be OC. In some states, OC is not a mandatory. Suppose if you deviated the plan, municipal authorities
won't
give any OC to you. Therefore, the question is,
First transaction, first sale or OC, whichever is earlier.
yes.
First occupancy.
On that floor, if one person is already occupied in that building, the law is deeming that is completed. So once it is completed, there won't be any work carried out by the builder to the customer. Therefore, it is a purely immovable property transaction, not liable for the tax. This taxation of immovable properties will take several sessions. It cannot be concluded in a one session or in one slide. Assessee, in one case, I argued, I just submitted to the court. The department passed the order against the dead person. The government pleader ferociously told that he has not replied. So cause notice, he has not attended the personal hearings. Therefore, we passed the order. That I am saying, assessee has died before issuance of the show cause notice. So the Justice Nariman told in Sabina Abraham case, taxman can tax only the living person. Once the assessee is dead, if there is any liability, estate only can be recovered if the law provided for that. In my view, if the assessee, if he died, there is no proper architecture in the GST Act for collection of the arrears from the legal heirs. But it will take some time to evolve this law. So these are all some of the
case of insolvency petition filed by the FC. The notice has been served, correct? Insolvency petition.
Sir, in some of the cases, we recommend the taxpayer to file the application for insolvency of the company. If there is no assets, there are so many tax proceedings initiated by tax department. We suggest the client, you file the application for insolvency, NCLT will impose the moratorium. Once the moratorium is imposed, all the dues will be extinguished. There is no assets, there is no fund with the company. Naturally, all the dues will be extinguished.
Individuals, sir. Individuals. What about individuals?
Individual SCs,
Ah,
small proprietary
He can
concerns.
file himself insolvency petition.
yes, yes.
Same will be applicable.
Sir, once he files the
Insolvency.
insolvency is ordered. So the
It is pending, it is going on.
it is, if it is pending, protection won't apply, sir.
Only
Only court has to order for the insolvency. With this, I completed some of the case studies. These are only examples, sir. These are only examples, sir. There can be a n number of the situations wherein we can approach the court directly, questioning the power of the officer to tax the transaction. So this facility is available, given by the Constitution of India. It is a Article 226 of the Constitution of India. So it is a basic structure of our Constitution. So no government can amend the court powers. If they want, they can intervene under the Article 226 of the Constitution.
Then cases for reverse charge on royalty, the royalty issues the granite businesses some are there. So there is any
PPT changes.
RCS royalty granites for business divide.
So presently issue is pending before Supreme Court, sir.
Oh.
Both service tax as well as the GST. So it will take some time.
So one more PPT, sir. This one, no?
Sir. So he purchased the goods from merchant exporter at 0.1% from the merchant. He exported. Actually, he is required to export LUT with to export. But instead of that, he exported with payment of IGST and claim refund. The entire amount will come to his bank account. So now department is alleged that you are wrong avail of refund. So after applying, so there is no tax evasion in this case. However,
that is what I showed you one judgment. Sands Laboratories, Kerala High Court. So they said that rule itself is void.
9610.
9610. That rule itself is unenforceable. So now, if one High Court says one rule is void, as per the Kusum ignored Supreme Court decision, every High Court need not say that this rule is void. The judgment will have the binding force on all the officers across the country. The GST officers need not wait a judgment from the AP High Court.
I'm telling that.
That is their ignorance. So we can file the petition before the court. On the simple ground that there is a judgment like this, he is not following that. Now we came to the last part of the session. Though it is a session for the tribunal, these pleading techniques will apply even for the income tax also. Even when you are appearing before the commissioner, assistant commissioner, these techniques will apply. Importance of the litigation before GST. This is so important because you failed at ASM return or audit discrepancy stage. You failed in adjudication stage also. You failed in appeal stage also. So 3 stages already completed. That is the reason litigation before GST tribunal is very important, because this is a final fact finding authority. If you are unable to produce any fact before the tribunal, you cannot produce that fact before the higher forums. Once you cross the tribunal stage, if you are filing appeal before High Court, you have to deposit full amount. No automatic stay. When you are filing appeal before High Court challenging the GST tribunal order, you have to deposit full tax amount, 100%.
20% criminal.
Once you cross the tribunal stage, once you lose your case before the tribunal, you have to challenge the tribunal order before the High Court. High Court won't give you the waiver of the deposit unless they are so convinced about your case. Therefore, it is very important. For first appeal, your case may be bad case, worst case. If you deposit 10%, that is sufficient. Second appeal, if you deposit another 10%, that is sufficient. But if you lose your case before the tribunal, department will recover the full amount. That is the reason litigation before tribunal is very important. As Sudhir sir said earlier, Customs, Central Excise Service Tax Appellate Tribunal has the power to condone the delay n number of years. Length of delay is not relevant. Cause for delay is the relevant factor. If they find substance in the cause behind the delay, they will condone. But the GST tribunal cannot condone the delay beyond particular time limit. That is the reason you need to be very vigilant in handling the case before GST tribunal. Once you cross the tribunal stage, only substantial question of law will only be entertained. Substantial question of law means that question of law never dealt by the High Court, which is having the ramifications across the industry. Then only court will take the cognizance into the case. High Court and Supreme Court. Once you cross the tribunal, next stage is High Court and Supreme Court. Cost of litigation is very high. Cost of litigation before High Court and Supreme Court is very high. I will give you one example. In Supreme Court, today 8 o'clock we will come to know that our case is listed tomorrow. So it is so inconvenient for us to travel next day morning to the Delhi. So if we are handling any appeal before Supreme Court, there will be a person called advocate on record. We have to file the appeal in his name and we have to argue our case. If stakes are high, client will say, we will appoint one more senior advocate. So as once we cross the tribunal stage, cost of litigation will be very high. Recovery proceedings. Once the tribunal confirms the demand, the department will immediately recover the amount. That is the reason the tribunal stage litigation is very important. Suppose if issue is a recurring issue, every year you will be facing the same demand. Sometimes if the issue involved constitutionality of a particular rule, notification or circular, you have to take a decision immediately to challenge before the High Court. Stakes involved is also a matter. Sometimes stakes are so small, it is not worthwhile to fight considering the cost of the litigation, time spent on that case for resolving the issue. Client says, sir, we will pay it. Sometimes stakes will be high. We have to fight for the case. If it is a recurring issue, there is no other solution. Since that issue will recur every year, in every audit officer will raise that audit para. Merits on the case is very important. You have to plead your case on merits. Limitation is also very important. There is something called notice issued within the normal period, notice issued after the normal period, extended period. So in one case, client has asked me, it is a cricket association case, sir, interest is accumulating every year. do we have a merits on the case? Are we going to win this case? I said on merits, we may not win this case, but on limitation, the GST department branded the Cricket Association BCCI as a evader of the tax. It is the instrumentality of the state. Therefore, state cannot allege the other wing of the state is evading the tax. So, on limitation, we are having good case. We will win the case. So, interest liabilities, penalty liabilities. So, our case, we need to present first on merits, next limitation, next interest, next penalties. Valuation is also crucial. Let us say you lost the case from all the fronts. At the end, you can ask one benefit, sir, I have not collected the tax from the customer, 28%. So whatever I have collected, please consider that as a inclusive of the tax. 100 divided by 128 into 28. So 1/5 or 1/4 of the tax liability will come down. So you are entitled to produce the new evidence that is crucial before the tribunal. You are entitled to raise the additional grounds, but as previous speaker said, we have to file the separate application for considering the additional grounds. Normally 99% of the cases they will allow the application for filing the additional grounds because the judges also has to dispose that case. It is bounden duty of the judge also to consider all the legal provisions, all the evidences. Clarity in facts is crucial. This is a golden rule. This is a golden rule. If you win the case based on the facts, no higher court can overturn the decision. You can win the case based on facts. You can win the case based on the interpretation of law. Between these two, what is ideal is winning the case based on the facts. Because if you win the case based on the facts, even if the department files an appeal, higher court cannot vote on the judgment. That is the reason you should always try to focus on the facts. If you focus on the law, ఒక సినిమాలో సీనియర్ ఎన్టీఆర్ చెప్పినట్టు పైకి వెళ్ళే కొంది కోర్టుకి తీర్పు మార్చు. సపోజ్ కర్ణాటక హైకోర్టు ఉంది అనుకోండి, ఫస్ట్ ట్యాక్స్ కేస్ విల్ గో బిఫోర్ ది సింగిల్ బెంచ్, then DB, then Supreme Court. So if you are focusing only on the interpretation of law, each judge may take his own view. But if you focus on the facts of the case, establishing your case based on the facts, so whoever read that evidence, whoever read that facts, it is equal understanding for all the people. Therefore, you should focus more on the facts. This is what I learned from my senior. So many people will ferociously say before the court, this is what is held in so-and-so judgment. All those are only for temporary reliefs. We should focus more on the facts of the case. After facts, citations, we should do enormous research on these judgments. I still remember when few years back, I appeared before the principal bench GSTAT in New Delhi. I gave a judgment to the judge. This is the issue covered by this judgment. So the judge immensely felt very happy. So there is a big light on his face saying that this is the case, exactly same judgment. So he passed the order by relying simply on the judgment. So you got a problem, someone else also might have got this problem, maybe in excise regime, maybe in VAT regime. So what happened to that cases at that point of time will give you a lot of leads to you. On your own, you may not convince the judge, but if you say my proposition of law is supported by judgment by this court, chances of convincing will increase. Circulars, this is very important. If there is a circular which is in your favor, it may be contrary to the law. But if the circular is in favor of you, it is binding on the department. They cannot argue contrary to the circular. It may be contrary to the law. Fine. There in chemicals, Supreme Court said, even if it is contrary to law, that circular is binding on the officer. If the circular is in favor of the taxpayer, that benefit has to be granted. In GST, you have this advantage. You can note down any problem in the GST. You will get a discussion in the, you will get some commentary in the GST Council minutes. There are 2 parliamentary committee reports on GST. There are 2 parliamentary committee reports on the GST. Apart from this, you will get lot of 13th Finance Commission, they have given a separate chapter for the GST. 14th Finance Commission, they have given a separate chapter for GST. Empowered Committee of State Finance Ministers. How the GST should look like in our country. So like that, there are Task Force on FRB Act 2003. There is a separate chapter on the GST in the year 2004 itself. Verify all these documents to understand what is in the mind of the policy leads. The relevant amendments. Sometimes many advocates ignore the amendments. This is a evolving law. Law may be amended after the transaction, but there is this amendment is retrospective amendment, directory amendment. Grounds should always be in concise form. I remember in early days of my career, judge simply he throw out the file, post it after 2 weeks. I asked why. You prepared your grounds of appeal. Simple, clear. Importance of the prayer. Finally, what you are asking for, that should be clear. We must avoid long drawn arguments. Otherwise, the member will forget where you started, where you are ending. Therefore, your argument should be clear, small sentences. Authority or officer for hearing, I always suggest you go with the synopsis of the arguments and the compilation also, compilation of the judgments, because this is the source from where you are speaking. I have filed, whether it is available on your table. So we should ask the officer to open the so and so number, page so and so judgment. One day one commissioner told somewhere that the file got misplaced. You proceed for hearing. I said I will come on some other date, sir. Your officers to locate the file. If he is without a file, it is not possible for him to understand the case. So our hearing will become futile. Therefore, wherever you are appearing, for that hearing, even before GST tribunal, we file the compilation of the case laws, so that the person who is taking the decision will get an opportunity to go through the file before hearing, after the hearing. Recently, in one intelligence matter, I have given the video evidence to the appellate authority. Even department also got shocked. So all material evidences, maybe in the form of video, we should submit to the adjudicating authority. I said this confessional statement is not voluntary. Adjudicating authority, where is the proof? Seizure happened in the public place. So we directed the client to verify all the CC cameras. In one CC camera, that proceedings got recorded. That officer manhandled the assessee who is caught with the gold. So that shows whatever the statement recorded on the spot is not voluntarily. So all the evidences crucial. In one case, I have given the report of Indian Bureau of Standards, classification of the iron ore. We are not experts in that field, so we should go through the Indian Bureau Standards. So though that book will give the guidance on classification of the various raw materials, various items. Sometimes we will call for the expert advice, expert report, expert evidence. Normally, most of the times I ask the chartered accountant certificate. Client says, sir, we have a ledger. No. Get it certified by the chartered accountant. So report from expert is always crucial to convince the member. I suggest don't file the appeals belatedly, because the delay has to be condoned. You have to file an application. You have to say the reason. So sometimes we give the same reason. So judge will come to know that we are filing the appeals most of the times belatedly, without sufficient reason, or giving the same reason. This we already discussed. Marshalling of the facts we already discussed. Case laws, research, circulars, do's and don'ts. Decorum of the court is very important. We should respect the judge. That is very important. Proper attire is also very important. These things may be small, but will create a impression on that person for the judges.
Dress code is also applicable for children, sir.
Yes.
Eh,
Coat and tie. I saw some of the employees from the public sector undertakings. As they are going to the office, they will come to the court. So that is not allowed. If you come with improper attire, you are disrespecting the institution. So it goes completely against your case. They will not say that you are not coming with the proper attire and we are dismissing the petition. But
yes, sir.
mobile needs to be switched off. We should reach the court on time. Recently, one senior advocate suggested me, don't reach the court on time. Please come before. These are all in the previous session we covered. Most of the times people will file the appeal without giving the proper indexation. In all the appeal bundles, the page number should be the same. Judge's copy, respondent copy, our copy, advocate's client copy, same document should be enclosed at the same place, same page number. Physical copy of the appeal also needs to be preserved. I am presently handling a High Court case of the year 1994 to 95, almost 30 years. So the reply filed before adjudicating authority, first appeal, all those documents needs to be preserved.
They have so much time.
2-3 times got it remanded, issue not resolved finally. Supreme Court assessee got the favorable order at the first appeal, second appeal stage. Tribunal department went up to Supreme Court. Now we are asking for refund of the deposits paid at the time of transaction. Some of the important tips. When the judge is speaking, we should not interrupt the judge. We should just listen the judge. This we already covered. Sometimes the person who is arguing, he will demonstrate his capability that he is an encyclopedia on the subject. Not useful. You are not there to demonstrate your intellectual skills before the judge. This I already told. While in the appeal paper book or oral hearing, we should avoid long drawn arguments. We should avoid voluminous record. We should not play the hide and seek. This is the foremost important task. If you ask for any chartered accountant or advocate who is appearing for the case, what is the foremost thing he should know? Let us say I am appearing for GST case before GST tribunal. What is the first thing I should learn? What is the first thing I should assess? What is the first thing I should know? Not the GST law, not your case. You should know about the person who is taking the decision. That is very important. You can also verify the judge's view on the same question previously in another transactions. If you are habituated to go to the tribunal daily, you will come to know. From other cases itself, you will come to know so many things. That is the reason it is advisable to go and sit in the tribunal. So you will get to know the judge's views on various question of laws.
So in any case, we can go.
Yes, yes, sir.
They allow.
Yes, yes. I remember in the year 2011, so I went to the tribunal and I was noting down what all the people are saying. Judge asked me to come to the front. He asked me, "Are you journalist? You are from some newspaper. That what you are writing on us?" We can go and sit in the court hall. So mood of the members also important. Timing of the hearing. It is my practice. If my matter is called after 3, I first choose to take the adjournment. After 3 means they whole day they spent on the hearing the cases, their energy levels exhausted. So honest behavior before the court would yield the good results long run. I follow these principles seriously. Some advocates will confuse the judge. Either they will convince the judge. If the judge is not convinced, they will confuse the judge so that he will post the hearing for some other date. So in long run, those techniques won't yield the results. Most of the times, our time is spent on reading the files, reading the case files. But we should give the sufficient time about thinking about your case. You read the file, you keep the file aside, and you should start thinking about the file. Then only you will get the new ideas. This is a success mantra. You prepare the case. better than your opponent, better than the judge, you will succeed. How much time you spent on your brief will decide the fate of that case. If you spend more time than your opponent, you will succeed. There is no point in being angry with the members, judges. You can't argue aggressively before the judges. Should be polite, you should be submissive before the judges. You should remember throughout your career, you're just an officer of the court. You may lose the case or win the case. That is a different issue altogether. You are just an officer to the court, assisting the court in justice delivering system. So you may lose the case. Sometimes you may lose the client also. But what is important is you should not lose the confidence of the court on you. That is the most crucial. Since you are all going to frequently appear before the tribunal, this is the foremost important thing. You may lose the case, you may lose the client also sometimes, but you should not lose the confidence of the court on you. That is the foremost. I will tell you one more principle. You should not lose your conscience. That is beyond these 3 points. So with this I completed, I gave some of the techniques for you. Your ability to appear before the authorities will, I hope, will increase. So I must thank the committee members and ICA Bezawada for giving this opportunity. So actually, first week of June లో నేను ఒక సెషన్ ఢిల్లీలో ఇచ్చాను. I spoke on some topic before the CFOs in Delhi. సో ఎక్కడో ఢిల్లీలో మాట్లాడడానికంటే I studied in Bezawada. So it gives me immense pleasure speaking before the Bezawada chartered accountants and my some of CS I know them personally. Thank you very much.
Your surname is also Bezawada.
Yes, yes.
Thank you very much, sir. Definitely, we'll be hosting you once again in the coming days. Thank you for the detailed discussion, sir. I request Narayana, chairman of the branch, to present memento to the speaker. Stop sharing what I'm getting. Thank you very much to all of the members of Vijayawada branch.